Check 1 2, check 1 2. Check, 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 check. Welcome to the Stadium Pulse, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Tegan Randolph, your host for all things college football. Before we get into today's show, which is absolutely loaded like a baked potato, I mean, coaching chaos. That's like the tip of the iceberg of what we have to talk about today. We have rivalry weekend, the impact and reactions around that. I had to buy a new microphone boom arm. If the CEO of Kretschmann Media, who powers all of this, sees this. I don't know what happened, man. I tried to adjust this. This show was actually supposed to start about 30 minutes earlier, and the bottom of the mic broke. I just pulled it down a little bit, like I usually do every single show. Snapped in half, ran a Target. This is not a sponsored show from Target by any means, but had to get a little cheap boom mic, so that's why it looks a little different. But like I said, let me give you a little table of contents of what the Sunday show is going to be. Traditionally on the Stadium Pulse, we try to aim for about 30 minutes. We're not doing 30 minutes. I'll tell you that right now. We're going to be looking at like a 45, 50-minute show, damn near, because the Lane train has gone off the rails, and we'll talk about that. We'll also talk about Alex Golesh going to Auburn, John Summerall going to Florida, Silverfield going to Arkansas, a domino effect. Literally, it felt like on notifications on who's going where. Who is going to Penn State? That's something we'll hypothesize. And then we have to get into about all of the games that are going on from rivalry weekend: A&M, Texas, Ohio State, Michigan, Oklahoma, LSU, Vanderbilt, Tennessee. And I don't even know if we'll get to the damn Iron Bowl. So we got to talk about plenty of things in college football. But if it is your first time here, and this is the first time you're seeing this minor league baseball hat, this lovely mustache, go check out the rest of the channel. This is college football. If you just want more college football, there's a big red button, free of charge, just a couple seconds of your time, which I understand is valuable, to give you some more college football content. Simple sugar. The Lane train has gone off the rails. That's the only way we can just start the conversation. I'll even restart that. The Lane train has gone off the rails. That's where the conversation starts, because what should have been a clean break is never a clean break when talking about Lane Kiffin. Lane Kiffin has decided to go to the LSU Tigers, and we'll talk about both sides of this, because as we're talking about it, more information comes out and more details are going to be leaked throughout the rest of the week and honestly the entire offseason about how this breakup went down. If I were to guess, Lane knew he wanted to go to LSU for weeks now. I think Lane was trying to understand how he wants to position himself to have his cake and eat it too. As an agent even stated anonymously, I saw this on Twitter, he's burning bridges, but still trying to stand on them. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, Lane Kiffin wanted to coach for this college football playoff run for the Ole Miss Rebels. But he also wanted to go to LSU. And at the end of the day, he was going to LSU regardless. It's how he was going to exit Oxford, Mississippi is where the point of contention started between the Ole Miss administration and Lane Kiffin. And where to start with this? So let me catch you up to speed on the timelines that we're working off of to get to this point. Obviously, LSU, Florida, their jobs open up, and there's been rumors that Lane was going to go to Florida for a very long time. Lane almost went to Auburn when Hugh Freeze got hired there. He was the contingency plan if Lane declined Auburn, and apparently, based on many reports, it was very close to happening. Then it was seen that Florida was going to be the top guy, Brian Kelly gets fired. That's a better job than Florida. LSU opens up, and that's where the rumor mill starts. Then we're hearing rumors about Lane Kiffin's family going to Florida, going to LSU, and scoping it out because his family has a deep-rooted love for Oxford, Mississippi, to which you get an ultimatum. The problem with ultimatums is more times than not, the person setting the said ultimatum never usually gets what they want. Or when they do, it usually backfires. And the Ole Miss administration and the athletic director set an ultimatum that during Egg Bowl weekend, following the last game of the regular season for Ole Miss, Lane Kiffin had to make a decision. He had a Sophie's choice. Do I stay at Ole Miss and have a statue built after me and continue this legacy of being the greatest Ole Miss head coach in their history, or go to LSU, chase the money, chase the national championship expectations and resources that LSU is going to provide? So we get to the Egg Bowl. Ole Miss dominates. Shout out to the Mississippi State true freshman quarterback. I think he's going to be a damn good player, by the way. Side note. But Ole Miss wins, and then we all wait. Poor Marty Smith of ESPN was sitting at Ole Miss and waited. The problem being, Ole Miss still had the opportunity to go to an SEC championship based on the results of the Iron Bowl, the last game of the SEC weekend, and potentially what was going to happen with Georgia Tech. Georgia wins. A&M loses to Texas. The door is still open for the SEC championship, so we prolong the decision, or the big reveal that he was just going to go to LSU anyways, based on the contract offer that was given to him. I mean, who wouldn't take that deal of $80+ million and $25+ million in NIL roster funds every single year, which is to the point of what we were talking about, where Lane was going to leave if he truly wanted to win a national championship. The key is you have to be circling that conversation every single year, and he probably felt like he could do it at LSU. So we get to the conversation with the athletic director. Lane makes his decision. Now, it should just be a clean break. I mean, obviously, it sucks that we're in the calendar of you have to make these decisions before the postseason, but it's the way the world is right now. It's going to be fixed one day. Today is not that day. Lane picks LSU, but he wants to coach. And apparently this is hard for people to understand. The athletic director is completely within his rights to say, if you are going to leave this program, because as the athletic director of Ole Miss, your job is to think of Ole Miss first. What can I do to put Ole Miss in the best position possible? Number one, the ultimatum was, I think, justified, because if you wait for Lane Kiffin to make a decision after the college football playoff, you will miss early National Signing Day, the start of the transfer portal, and you are going to be behind the 8 ball in terms of picking your next head coach if Lane was to just leave at the very end of it because of how long the college football playoff takes. And he's also justified to tell Lane, hey, you are deciding to leave this program and everything you built. I'm sorry, you don't get to reap the rewards. If you wanted to, you should have stayed. He wanted his cake and he wanted to eat it too. And so Lane, in traditional fashion of what we've seen Lane Kiffin do time and time again, even though I still think he has matured as a coach, I don't think I can defend him on this one. Lane then said, okay, I'm going to go to LSU. I'm going to make the official announcement. I'm going to go to my offensive staff and give them an ultimatum, just like I was given an ultimatum, and say, you have a choice. You can come join me at LSU, or if you don't and you want to stay at Ole Miss and see this one out, you will not have a job waiting for you at LSU. Which is a wild ultimatum to hold hostage this entire offensive staff for Ole Miss, but Lane made his choice. And it makes you really wonder Ole Miss from the perspective of the College Football Playoff Committee, which not a lot of people are talking about because they would want to be upset about Lane Kiffin, understandably so. The Florida State problem, where Florida State went undefeated, very last game of the season, quarterback out, and you drop them out of the college football playoff, even though they were undefeated. Do you drop Ole Miss because they will not have majority of their offensive staff and Lane Kiffin, the guy that got them there? I mean, it is well within their rights. It's on their page that missing players or coaches can impact where you are ranked should Ole Miss drop. That impacts a lot of different teams and seeding. That 5 to 6 seed could be a matchup between the ACC champ of Duke or Virginia or a potential group of 5 team. And who knows, maybe another group of 5 team instead of the ACC champion of an 8-5 Duke. That's a scenario. So that could all impact Ole Miss's chances, who I think were in a pretty good spot to be that 5th or 6th seed. This is a wild and unique scenario to be in as a college football fan. And the real take that I have, this is worse than what Lincoln Riley did to Oklahoma. I really believe this is a worse situation and worse way about to go with you departing your team. This could have been a simple break. Would it have been painful for Ole Miss fans to come to terms with the reality that their coach left them for a better job? Because plenty of Ole Miss fans have come in coping saying, well, Ole Miss in 2025 is just up there with some of the best of them. It's not. Has it improved from 2015 to 2025? Of course. Part of that's because Lane has had this team at the forefront of NIL funding and adapting to the new world of college football before anyone else. There's so many college football programs that are still trying to get to the level that Ole Miss is in terms of NIL. What's scary, to pivot a little bit more to the LSU side of things, LSU for a long time outside of just last season was behind the 8 ball in terms of NIL funding. Now they're getting the pioneer of it in a state, in a program with the resources that they do. I am petrified, as someone that is a fan of a team within the SEC, of what Lane is going to be able to do with a team in a institution like LSU. I think it's going to work out. That shouldn't be a hot take, though. It's an A+ hire. It's a home run hire. It is the splash hire that Lane Kiffin and LSU was the match made in heaven. It's unfortunate that the way that they've gone about this breakup between Ole Miss and Lane Kiffin is going to be one that is very ugly. And it is seen to be that way. There's going to be story after story. There's rumors that he didn't even face the team making his decision. And the heartbreaking part is the fact that Ole Miss, a team that last year was extremely talented, disappointed, didn't make the college football playoff. The notion that I had going into this season was that they weren't as talented as last year. They lost so many pieces, and yet they found a way with a Division II champion, Trinidad Chambliss, steps in. They find a way to go 11-1. It doesn't matter. It wasn't enough for a guy like Lane Kiffin, who is a legacy guy. He wants to win national championships. He doesn't care about being special to one place. He wants the place that's going to give him the best chance to win. And the way that he's gone about it has been brutal. I mean, the longer this got strung along, the longer I felt, or the more confident I felt that he was going to go to LSU. Even with the Egg Bowl and the events that transpired there, even Ole Miss fans or Ole Miss reporters chirping at him. And maybe they were right, not to say they were justified to chirp at him in real life and then cower when he steps to their face, but Lane is always going to be Lane Kiffin. He's the same guy that we have talked about in years past. Now, am I saying that he is the same level of a bad or good person? No, because I don't know the guy. I can only react to the actions that I've seen from him. But the way that this could have been such an easy breakup for him, but he needed to take that extra step. I want to coach this team. I've deserved to coach this team. I should finish my story here. If you wanted to finish your story, you should have realized that the college football playoff, in order to do that, was not going to be your ending. If anything, it could have been the middle part of your journey of being the greatest Ole Miss head coach of all time. Now, Ole Miss has pivoted. Ole Miss has decided to hire Pete Golding, their defensive coordinator, as their permanent head coach, not interim, permanent. Pete Golding was seen as a guy that was going to be a candidate for a lot of different jobs, maybe in the G5 ranks. There's been rumors that he could have been in some of the Power 4 conversations, but they decided to go with him full time. Now, this could be a move from the administration to say, we're so confident that we can make this change that the playoff committee can't drop us because we didn't just make this guy the interim as like a Band-Aid to the situation. No, we believe he is the full solution and is going to take Ole Miss further for the years to come. It's a risky move to hire Pete Golding full time. Pete Golding has not coached a head coach level in the Power Four. He hasn't done it in the G5. He has been an assistant or coordinator his entire career. It's a risk. Let's call a spade a spade. It is a risky move to hire Pete Golding full time. In the short term, it probably will work. It probably can lead to a win in the first round and you feel vindicated in making him the full-time guy. Long term, I question it a lot. Long term, I don't know what to expect from Pete Golding and this era of Ole Miss football. The defense lost all that talent last year and still played at a very high level. Credit to him. What does this offensive staff look like when we look at the long term just past this year? I understand this is the best year of Ole Miss football, and it is getting a giant stain on it, a giant lane stain. That's terrible, Tegan. I'm sorry. What is that going to look like? In recap, I mean, it's an A+ slam dunk hire. Like you can't call it anything else unless you're just genuinely having so much hatred and rage for Lane Kiffin. And honestly, most of Oxford, Mississippi is justified in that. And for Ole Miss, I mean, the best I could give the Pete Golding hire is probably a C-. Frankly, I don't know what the offensive staff is, and I think that's what's going to make or break his era of Ole Miss football. Gosh, I feel for the players, though. It was something that was so transparently obvious as we got later into this that he was going to LSU. And of course, he wanted to eat his cake and eat it. He wanted to have his cake and eat it too. He wanted to burn the bridge while standing on it. Those two statements are the best way to describe how Lane, I guess, ruined his legacy at Ole Miss, because I think he really did. What a shame. What a damn shame. Let's get a water break for a second. Because that was not the only coaching news. I see we got some people in the chat. Welcome to the Stadium Pulse. My name is Tegan Randolph. This is a college football show. I appreciate you giving me an opportunity to talk some ball with you. Feel free. Leave any notes in the comments. I love reacting and responding to you guys. Alex Golesh has been hired to Auburn. Now, right hand up, accountability time. If you go check out this page, I said that Alex Golesh was going to be hired at Arkansas. If I had a clown nose, I would wear it. I was wrong. I took a handshake agreement, read a bunch of articles. I saw people acting like it actually happened, posting their podcast clips. I thought I had free will to do it. I get on here, I post my TikToks, I post this video, and then it turns out it was a handshake agreement. There was no contract signed, and now I look dumb. And I feel even worse for Arkansas. We'll talk about their hire because talk about uninspiring type of hire. I feel bad for what I'm about to say about this hire for Auburn. It's apparently very incentive based. You could see it a mile away if you just read the tea leaves on what the Auburn administration really wanted. They mentioned offense a lot. That's why I didn't think they were going to end up truly going with John Summerall, not an offensive mind, Golesh being one. Former Tennessee offensive coordinator, goes to USF. And at his time at USF, he went 7-6, 7-6, 8-3. I feel better about this hire if it happened for Arkansas than it does to Auburn. And that's for a couple of different reasons. When I was talking about Alex Golesh going to Arkansas, I felt better about that because Alex Golesh was a guy that I felt like could punch up his weight class. You knew at Arkansas, you were never going to have a talent roster at the same level of an Alabama, Georgia, and Ohio State of the world. And Alex Golesh was going to be a guy that you could look at this Arkansas roster and maybe he can chip away at some of the top rivals like a Texas A&M at Texas with the roster that Arkansas could provide. When you go to Auburn now, it's a completely different talent pool and resource center. And maybe you can make the argument and say Alex Golesh is the type of guy that can get the most out of a talent roster. And I think that's completely fair. That's why I am cautiously optimistic about this hire, but it's not one that I would call a slam dunk. Now, comparative to maybe the Florida hire or the Arkansas hire, the real one that actually happened, I think Golesh, out of all the G5 ranks that ended up getting their next job, I feel pretty good about it, but I would still classify this as a B minus C plus hire. There's moments where I could see that this is a complete disaster. And I think Golesh runs an effective offense for a G5 rank to punch up its weight class, but I don't know if he's a guy that's going to be able to step in and transform this offense, because it's eerily similar to Hugh Freeze. I understand he runs the wide splits, but we're talking about a version of the spread offense. I think the question that is going to, or the answer that is going to best make me feel confident that Golesh is going to work out at Auburn is, what does his defensive staff look like? And I think that could be said for every hire, is what is your staff going to look like early on? Because I think Golesh, being a G5 guy, not a ton of experience at the head coach level. I mean, only 3 years at USF. And frankly, I don't know if it is just sour grapes from the South Florida fans, but definitely seeing a lot of good riddance from USF fans talking about Golesh leaving. And I don't know if that's a great sign. Maybe it is just sour grapes, but there's just a weird, cautious optimism that I have with this. It also depends on who you're able to retain. Guys like Deuce Knight, you have to retain. That is a top-end talent that, if developed, could be one of the best players in the SEC. Cam Coleman is a great example. Now, I don't think Cam Coleman would be a great fit for his development in that Alex Golesh offense. I think he could put up great numbers. I think he could be a great college player, but for a guy of his talent and caliber, I want to see him have a full route tree. I saw Brooks Austin talk about this. I think he's completely right. I want to see him be able to go play on Sundays. I don't think playing in this Golesh offense is going to set himself up for success. Very similar to what I talk about with Tennessee wide receivers. I don't think that they are set up for their best development, but I do think they could put up great numbers. I think that this is a fine hire. I think compared to if you were going with Summerall, I would probably lean Summerall for the standard of Auburn and what they want. But out of the G5 guys, if you're going to dip your hand in there, Golesh is a fine option. We have to talk about John Summerall going to Florida, though. And what was a chain reaction, like I said, once Lane made his decision, we saw Golesh go to Auburn, then we saw Summerall go to Florida. Summerall was 42-11 in his 4 years coaching, 2 at Troy, 2 at Tulane. Pardon me. It's another G5 coach for Florida. I haven't seen a lot of positive reactions from Florida, mainly for the fact that they were so convinced for a long time that they were going to get Lane Kiffin. We were going to get Lane. It was going to happen. And obviously you settle with John Summerall, and it is a case where you had to settle. Some of my concerns with Summerall aren't really rooted in, I guess, anything that is the standard with the coach. I think he's going to be a guy that brings in talent because it's freaking Florida. Florida is always going to bring in talent. That's always going to be their case. I don't think that there's going to be a problem on the field. I think you're going to get a solid product from Florida, and maybe a guy that's a little bit more flexible on bringing in a staff that has a little bit more flexibility on the offensive side of the ball. I think the offensive staff is a huge question mark here. What I get worried about with Summerall is what I've seen for the past couple of years at Tulane, and I understand a lot of Green Wave fans have talked about this in a sense that his control of the locker room and letting distractions seep in because of him leaving maybe is just a case with him being a part of the group of 5, a top coaching candidate for many years. I mean, it was seen that he was probably going to go to Auburn for many years. And as soon as those distractions became something that was talked about, it seeped into the locker room, and you could kind of tell that he let his hand go of the wheel, and Tulane would have poor performances. I think last year, or just a couple weeks ago, getting smacked around by UTSA amidst all the rumors. Now, that's something that is very difficult for any coach to manage or handle, and it could just be the fact that he was a top coaching candidate, and when you're at a school like Florida, you're not really going to get poached. I'm just expressing my concern on that sense. I would give this like a B minus C plus again. These G5 ranks, I mean, it is about scalability. I can hear about all these great stories and how they're the group of 5 darling. I mean, Billy Napier was a group of 5 darling. There's very much a question of what is your scalability into your practices, into these large institutions like the Auburns of the world, the Floridas of the world? And do you have proven culture and proven practices that you can be able to scale to these talent rosters and manage the personalities of 5 stars across the board? I think that's the number one question that I have in regards to if this is going to work out for Summerall. The last hire we'll talk about is Silverfield. The Memphis head coach goes to Arkansas. Now, like we talked about, Alex Golesh is not the Arkansas head coach. Ryan Silverfield went 50-24 from 2020 to 2026. He had 0 AAC title appearances. And the notion around Silverfield is he's a middle-of-the-pack AAC coach. He's been there for a long time. And Arkansas, as they were at the bottom of the pecking order in terms of ACC or SEC coaching openings, they kind of got the consolation prize, a group of 5 coaches. Now, this is not the big splash play or big, I guess, swing that Arkansas was hoping for. Your big swing was probably going to be Gruden. Apparently, Eric Morris chose Oklahoma State over Arkansas, which is a burn. That's got to sting. And I am hearing a lot of noise from Arkansas faithful. I mean, they're protesting. They do not want Ryan Silverfield as their coach. This is an uninspiring hire. I'm going to call a spade, man. For Arkansas and what they could be. I mean, obviously, as transparent as it could be, it's up to like what Walmart would want to invest into Arkansas, but it just really sounds like 100 years check and this athletic department is very much feeling the heat from these fans. It sounds like fans would have just rather stick with Bobby Petrino than going with Silverfield because it just doesn't seem like an inspiring like injection of juice and optimism into this program like you want with a coaching hire. Like that is truly how it feels to watch this. It is one of those coaching hires that immediately you see fans just saying, all right, I'll see you in 3 years when we have to buy him out and we have to move on to the next guy. Arkansas, it seemed like they were hiring, or based on everything we can read, interviewing everybody underneath the sun. And it sounded like they had a plan in place. If Auburn was to go elsewhere, Golesh was going to be the coach there. If they were to get Summerall, and then Florida probably would potentially go somewhere else, maybe they would go Golesh. But I think the way that the dominoes fell and the way that they did, Arkansas was left with the short end of the stick and landed with Silverfield, who, you know, with any of these hires, I could be outright wrong. Maybe they all work out. Maybe Silverfield is the best of the bunch. I don't know what his staff looks like. I don't know what his culture is. I don't know what he's going to bring to the table for Arkansas. But reacting in the way that I am, I would give it a C-. I don't think it's that much of an inspiring hire. I'll be honest here. Last bit of coaching news. All righty. Last bit of coaching news before we actually have to talk about games. That, you know, like the actual football games that have to be played. Yeah, we have to actually talk about those sooner or later. And we're already 30 minutes in the show. This will be a quick piece because I don't think enough people are talking about it. What is going to happen with Penn State? Who are they going to hire? We just saw a flurry of SEC hires just happen within an hour this morning. The chaos of Lane Kiffin, Golesh to Auburn, Summerall to Florida, Silverfield to Arkansas. And the team that fired their coach first was the Penn State Nittany Lions. And yet, they feel like they're the most lost team. They seem like the most chaotic team. They seem like the team that doesn't know what they're doing in this coaching search. I mean, I'm hearing crazy names that could be potentially the next head coach. And it frankly feels like the early stages of the LSU job where you had Nick Saban as the favorite to win the job. I mean, Bob Chesney, I originally thought was going to be the guy, the JMU head coach. And recent reports point to the fact that it may not be Bob Chesney, and that maybe would have been the inspiring hire that they've been looking for. Because let's not forget the context with Penn State. They are looking for a guy that is better than James Franklin. They want a guy that can elevate this program past 10-2. They are looking for a needle in a haystack. I think they're screwed. I really don't know what to expect from Penn State. I mean, Brian Daboll is rumored to be one of the top candidates here, and that mainly might be for the fact that it is just his son, I believe, goes there. I'm hearing Josh Heupel is getting interest from Penn State, the Tennessee coach, and I don't think that will happen. Maybe that's just a move to get Heupel an extension because I think he's a damn good coach, even though they just lost to Vanderbilt. I'm mainly noting this because we haven't talked about it, and we're not going to dive into like where they could go because, frankly, I have no information on what Penn State's going to do. And I don't think anyone else knows what in the world are they going to do. I think they are quickly realizing that they had an 8 out of 10 girlfriend who loves and cherishes you, but you had supermodel expectations, and now you're realizing it's not that easy to go find yourself a supermodel. They are, I am very worried for Penn State. And I've said that for months at this point. It is getting worse. But we have to talk about games. This one's going to be painful. I don't want to talk about it. Are y'all all right if I don't talk about the Lone Star Showdown? No, you guys want me to talk about the Lone Star Showdown. Okay. Number 3, Texas A&M scored 17 points on the road, while Texas, the number 16 team in the country, scored 27. The Lone Star Showdown has come to a close, and once again, Texas has beaten Texas A&M for back-to-back years. A&M is officially 11-1. Texas goes 9-3, but let's talk about the winners here. I'm not kidding when I say that there's no notes for this game. I'm going to be talking from the heart. I'm not going to talk about any stats. Texas and A&M, this was the definition of the 2024 game. This game was so eerily similar to last year. We're talking about a Texas team that worked so well with a lead, very much would get to that lead, and even though it felt like 10 points was just an arm and reach away, it really felt like 17. It felt like this offense for Texas A&M just could not get it going. And you had Texas finally run the football like they haven't been able to do all season. Arch Manning making just enough plays, very similar to Quinn Ewers making just enough plays. And you're looking at this game, and even when A&M had an opportunity to maybe get to a one-score game, you're looking at Marcel Reed, and you're like, this team doesn't have any offensive identity. They are playing not to lose, they are playing not to lose versus playing to win. It felt like Texas in the second half were the aggressors. I mean, I'm watching this Texas team, and mind you, I'm in the stadium watching in between plays during commercial breaks, and you are watching this Texas team gain momentum as Arch Manning started to gain confidence and started to go with the flow of the game and really build up his play and become one of the best football players on that field. The entire roster was building behind him, and the intensity was growing and growing and growing. And you just saw A&M basically just take it and roll over. And that was the most concerning part for the Aggies, as even though there was moments or a little spark of a comeback, that third quarter is what absolutely buried them when you weren't able to get any kind of momentum on the offensive side of the ball, whether it was shooting yourself on the foot when we're talking about a 4th and 1 opportunity turning into a 4th and 6 because of a false start. Little things like that happened throughout the entire game. And frankly, this could have been worse. A&M got a lot of breaks in terms of referee play. The referee play for the SEC has been atrocious all year. It was atrocious in this game. A&M caught a ton of breaks from the referees, and yet it was still only a 10-point loss. A lot of people are going to talk about Texas being 9-3 and whether or not they should meet at the college football playoff. I don't think they'll make it. Do they have a fair point when they say, if we had scheduled Kent State instead of Ohio State, would we be in the playoff then? You absolutely would be. And frankly, my concern isn't for 2025. It's broadening the scope to 2026, 2027, 2028, when they use Texas and what happened this year, getting 3 top 10 wins, an out-of-conference loss that was a quality loss, but at the end of the day, it's 9-3, and using them as a bargaining chip to expand the college football playoff to 24. It's going to happen. I think it'll happen. And I'm not one to expand the playoff more than what we've already expanded it to. I think the 12 team is just fine. Pardon me, I'm still dealing with a little bit of a cold. And Texas will not make it because of the chaos that we're about to deal with. And I think that they played their best game of the season. And when we talk about A&M, a lot of people are going to point to the fact of how light their SEC schedule is, which it was. It was. My biggest thing with the SEC schedule, or A&M schedule in general, was the fact that you had people time and time again predicting A&M to lose. And then when they would win in convincing fashion, you'd say, oh, well, they didn't have this. Oh, they sucked. Oh, their coach sucks. That was my biggest problem. I never denied the fact that this was a light SEC schedule. But I would also say A&M has always been a volatile team, and clearly this is a talent roster for Texas that just has A&M's number offensively. It is on Colin Klein and Marcel Reed and this coaching staff to figure out how to break this team. And you have just now let your biggest rival not only kick you out of the SEC competition and championship 2 years in a row, it's very much like Ohio State, Michigan. I look at this as a failure, not as a season, but on Mike Elko. Your job is to beat Texas. I don't care what your record was for the 11 games leading up to it. You got to beat Texas. Because now it's 15 years between the last time you beat Texas. Now, I understand there was like a 10-year gap of not playing him. That's not what Texas fans are going to talk about. I think Mike Elko's just got to figure out, but that's a problem for the offseason. Because A&M is now going to go to the college football playoff first round, and their consolation prize, oh, boo-hoo, it's a freaking home game at Kyle Field, probably against the ACC champ or a group of 5 representative. So as an A&M fan, I'm not that mad, but it definitely stings to lose to Texas in the way that you do, especially just even if A&M goes on a good run, which I don't think they'll win the national championship just because Ohio State is that freaking good. No matter what you say this season, your biggest rival could say that they beat you. That's what makes college football special. And I think they would have very much benefited from having a heartbeat to the offense like Le'Veon Moss, who I think is going to be an incredible addition when we're talking about the college football playoff. When Marcel Reed isn't playing to his best standards, you have a guy that's a physical runner that can get you 4 yards at any given moment. Le'Veon Moss would be perfect for that. And for Texas, when they don't make the college football playoff, this is a great, I guess, stamp to the end of your regular season to go into 2026, more than likely with Arch Manning, who I think is incredibly talented and probably will put it all together his junior year or his senior year. And that's a scary thought, because once they get that offensive line corrected, Texas is once again going to be a top 3 team in the country and a national championship contender. If they get that fixed this offseason, their sky is the limit. It's Texas football. Let's not forget that. So A&M goes 11-1, disappointed, but they still have the rest of their season in front of them. And my last note on it, actually, this loss to Texas is going to be the biggest test for Mike Elko's culture. How are you going to respond from an emotional loss? You're going to have plenty of time between now and your first round college football playoff spot. You're going to have your returning Le'Veon Moss, returning Scooby Williams. How are you going to respond? Are you going to turn over and say, well, maybe we are exactly what the media said we are? A team with an easy schedule that just got a cupcake walk to the college football playoff? Or are you a team that can step up like you did on the road against Notre Dame and be able to not only win the first round of the playoff, but win multiple games? Because they have the ceiling to do it. It's the volatility that has been the Achilles heel for Texas A&M football. It is on Mike Elko. This is the reason why you pay him, to correct course, genuinely flush away whatever happened in Austin, Texas, and focus on the future, because everything is still in front of the Aggies, believe it or not. Ohio State, number 1 team in the country, scores 27-9 against the Michigan Wolverines on the road, the number 15 team in the country. They finally did it, folks. Ladies and gentlemen, Ohio State finally beat Michigan. We can finally stop this. I mean, my gracious, I get so much flack for picking Michigan or picking Ohio State every year. And I can finally say I was justified in picking the more talented team in a rivalry spot. But what I will tell you is I was fully ready to write an apology after that first quarter. It looked like it was going to be one of those games where Michigan drags Ohio State to the deep end, and Michigan once again makes this a slugfight. And once again, we're going to be looking at Michigan as the team that just has Ryan Day's number, because after that drive where they got a 30 plus yard run with Jordan Marshall, they get the interception on Julian Sayin, and it's all turning Michigan once again in the big house. But credit to the mental fortitude for Ohio State to not only flush what happened last year and go and win a national championship, and then they haven't lost a game since. They went undefeated 12-0, but then they get punched in the face. And I'm sure for a moment, not only the fans, but the players that were there last year look at that moment where Sayin throws the pick, and they could have easily said, oh, we're back in the deep end, guys. We're back in the deep end. Michigan has dragged us out here. It's happening again. And a lot of teams fold. A lot of teams would fold in that moment. Not Julian Sayin and not Bo Jackson, a true freshman, goes 22 carries, 111 or 117 rushing yards, 4 catches for 49 yards and a touchdown. What a performance. I guess if you are a running back named Bo Jackson, you're just guaranteed to be good. Julian Sayin was 19 of 26, 233 yards, 3 touchdowns and an interception. After that interception, he had those 3 touchdowns. They weren't sprinkled in. It was at the very beginning of the game. So he was easily able to flush away all the bad moments throughout this game. They shut out Michigan in the second half. I mean, just incredible work. Incredible work from Ryan Day and the Ohio State Buckeyes. We're talking about a team that was able to get punched in the face and bounce back. And that's the scariest part about them, is the fact that they are probably going to get punched by a high-quality team, probably Indiana in the Big Ten Championship or any team they face in the college football playoff. And the fact that they were able to bounce back with Jeremiah Smith, Carnell Tate, and just keep pushing forward. Their running back room with CJ Donaldson. And if Bo Jackson is a guy that's becoming to emerge as the star of this running back room, how are you going to stop this offense with Julian Sayin, who's a damn robot with the football, one of the best deep balls in the entire country, with the 2 wide receivers on the outside? And if you have a heartbeat of the offense in Bo Jackson, I mean, so much credit has to be given as well to the offensive line. They were the ones that got, thrown to the woodshed by the defensive tackles last year. They were getting pushed around early into this game, and they clamped down. I mean, just so much credit has to be given to Ohio State. They're the number 1 team for a reason, but the way that they won this game was so impressive and makes you feel so justified that they were probably going to go win the national championship. I mean, they are head and shoulders above everyone else for a good reason, and they won the game as the Ohio State Buckeyes. For Michigan, they have to expand the offense. I don't know what they have to do. I get it. Like, they have their brand. They have their MO. They love to play a very conservative style of offense, but number 1, you have to dip your toes in the transfer portal and get some wide receivers. Andrew Marsh is a damn good wide receiver. He's going to be a great number 1 for a guy like Bryce Underwood. And I understand they were kind of stuck in a very tough place when we're talking about not having Jordan Marshall with the shoulder injury in and out of the lineup. And he was a great player when he was able to play in this game. You were out with Justice Haynes. You're putting a ton of weight on a very young roster. It is the youngest roster in the Big Ten. Bryce Underwood clearly is not a guy that's going to lift up an entire offense just yet. There's some incredible moments. I think of a seam shot in this game that was an NFL level throw that like top end NFL guys can't even make that throw. He's able to do that. But this offense needs juice. It needs to be expanded. You need to be able to have Underwood as the heartbeat of this offense. He can't just be the frosting to a very good cake. He needs to be the kit and caboodle. He needs to be the whole package. You need to work around the entire offense for him and his skill set. And I think that's what the sophomore year version of Bryce Underwood has to be. I get it. You want to run the ball. You want to control the game. You want to throw when you need to, not because you want to. Like, I very much understand this is the Michigan way, but with a quarterback of that caliber, if that's how you're going to run the offense, you don't need a $10 million quarterback. Just because he's from the state of Michigan, you didn't need to get him if this is how you're going to use him. And we've seen every single time throughout this season for Michigan, when they faced off against high-level competition, the offense definitely takes a step back, and you need to revamp it. I think you definitely need to elevate this offense to a level to where you could see a dynamic player like Underwood in every single play as you run through him, not around him, if that makes sense. So I think that's the goal if you're Michigan going into this year, is how can we elevate this offense and continue to build this defense up? and Wink Mardell is going to be an aggressive guy, maybe continue to build a roster around that. But I mean, at the end of the day, they just weren't going to be a team that was going to be able to climb back into a lead. They were going to have to get to a lead early. I think those early threes that could have been sevens were critical in a spot like this. If they were up 14-0 versus the 6-0 that they were, we could be talking about a different game. But so much credit to Ohio State. They win 27-9 against the Michigan Wolverines in what was an incredible the game. We have a couple games to talk about, but my voice is getting fried, guys. I'm going to be honest here. We're at 45 minutes. How about this? Tuesday, we'll talk about Oklahoma, LSU, Vanderbilt, and Tennessee. We'll talk about the Iron Bowl. If you guys come back, that would mean the world to me. Check out the page. This is the Stadium Pulse. We talk about college football every single day. This is all powered by Crutchman Media. We do fantastic work around here. We have to talk about the college football playoff. We have to talk about conference championship weekend. We're here every Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. Tuesday, Thursday, Sunday. We might be adding another show. So if you guys show enough love, if you say you want to see more shows, let me know in the comments. It's the only way I can know. Maybe a like or two. But that's the only way I can know that you guys want to see multiple shows outside of the 3 that we do this week. So let me know down in the comments. I will see you guys next time. This is the Stadium Pulse. My name is Tegan Randolph, and I will see you guys next time.